Hello, and welcome back to the Misfit Business Lounge podcast. I am joined by Julie today, and I'm super excited because this has been a little bit of an impromptu plan of doing this podcast. However, in our conversation today, we realized how needed this is. Now, Julie is a master of her craft. She's going to be diving into the conversation of hiring today. And I think hiring is something that a lot of entrepreneurs are scared about. There's a lot of fear that comes into the hiring process. There's also a lot of unintentional energy that comes into the hiring process. And I know for me that I've made hiring mistakes and I've been very confused in the beginning stages of my business on how to get the best from hiring and how to make strategical decisions and how to budget for hiring. And it can all just feel like a lot, especially when we maybe don't have outside team members to help us steer that process. Now, Julie, can you just begin by telling us a little bit about you and how you support your clients?
Absolutely. So I call myself the leadership and teams expert because I come into your business and talk to you about your people, including you as a business owner, because you are your biggest, sometimes problem, team member, the biggest, hardest one to manage. But also as a leader, helping to craft that strategic plan for you in your business. Because planning is one of the things that I think we as business owners really struggle with the most. And if we can get a really good plan in place, then it really elevates our whole business and it hits everything. It hits our team, it hits our profit, it hits how our customers, even our systems to make things easier so that we are not spending, 7,000 hours a day working in our business. We have that balance. So it's a little bit different to, a lot of, I guess, people in that leadership space because I really understand how people can really help you scale your business so fast and give you back your balance.
I love this. Now, I'm going to go in deep very, very quickly because we want to get to the juice of this conversation. Now, hiring. Hiring is an art formation in itself. It can create really good results or it can instantly go into like a bad decision, right? And so, with the hiring process, where do we get to the point of even thinking about hiring? Because I think that I probably went into the hiring process a little bit too soon in my business and then maybe had to like rejig things so that I could be more strategical with my hiring. So I'm intrigued what that decision making process should look like and how to get to that knowing that you are ready to hire. Because there'll be a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this that are maybe debating hiring, that don't know whether it's the right time. So it'd be interesting to know when that right moment is.
So I think it's about shifting your perspective about what hiring looks like, right? So I talk to people about their support team, how you can be supported. So I know I look at my team in a very holistic way, right? So I have someone who comes in and cleans my house every fortnight because I looked at it and went, I can pay someone X amount to do something in an hour that would take me 3. So to
Yeah.
me, already I'm getting my time back. So if we start shifting into who can support us in our business and sometimes stop us from having arguments with our spouses as well, then it shifts that whole hiring, right? It's not this big, scary monster. So where can you get support? Where do you need support? And as soon as you start feeling that overwhelm, when you look at your calendar or your to-do list and go, how the freaking am I going to do all this? That is your trigger to actually go, okay, I need support. And it's about looking at what support do you need right now? And because it doesn't have to be, the misconception is, or when I hire someone for my business, I need to hire someone full time straight away. And so
Yeah.
that's where the finances come in, right? They go, oh my God, how do I have enough? How do I have enough money? How do I make sure I'm earning enough? If you look at it as I'm building my support team, then you can, and think about the cleaner as an example, right? That is a really small investment that gives you back your time. And that's what you need, because I looked at it going, well, how much money could I make in my business in the time that I'm actually doing that task? And that's the real key thing. And it's something I talk to my clients about all the time. Great. That task that you're doing, work out how much you would pay yourself, and would you be willing to pay somebody else the same amount to do that task? And all of a sudden, filling in that spreadsheet, or, like scheduling that post, all of a sudden, it actually sounds way more expensive when we look at the cost of us doing this. So as soon as you start that overwhelm and you start to feel it, that's when we need to start asking the questions, okay, what support do I need right now? And sometimes, to be fair, we need to have a conversation about that to get clarity.
Absolutely. And so my first technical hire in my business was Lewis, and it was a very sporadic decision. So the way that it worked out is we obviously had no children. We were living our best life. We had the house. I was building my empire that Lewis had actually invested in so that I could take that risk. And he was like getting up at 4 a.m. and not coming home till like 8 p.m., working really, really long hours in a trade that just didn't feel good and it just didn't light him up. I was always very good at the business thing, but I was always very bad at like the logistical thing. The logistics of like the organization of things. It's just like, no, not for me, thank you. Like I don't want to take care of this. I want to make the money. I want someone else to budget the money. I want to like do the thing, but I want somebody else to take care of the back end. And so one day he was like, "Well, what if we both just lean in and I do the things that you don't like to do and you do the things that you like to do and we just see how it works." And so it was a very impulse decision. I don't think we ever actually sat there and said, is this affordable right now? It was like an energetic decision of, well, we're going to do this. And so Lewis kind of renovates vintage cards on the side. So we were like, well, we've got that to fall back on. Like, that's fine. We can take care of this. And the impulse decision worked out. But the reason it worked out is there's things that I don't like to think about as a business owner. And even in my massage business, this was majorly where I went wrong. Because my thing is I'm good at being present with my craft and I'm good at creating the energy for my clients. But the things that I'm not thinking about is what are we doing in 3 months' time? What are we doing in 6 months' time? Like, where are we going from here? What is the bigger imprint? What is the long term? What is the short term? And Lewis is very good at like driving that thought process. So right now I'm like, well, it's festive season, we're clocking off. And he's like, you're not clocking off until you've told me the plan for like January, February, March, and then you can clock off. But it's so needed because I can get lost in that creativeness and I need someone else to bring in that like grounding force and the logic to my spirit, dare I say it, so that I can kind of ground everything back in. So looking at this, what do you think is, and I guess this is going to vary, what do you think we should be thinking about when we're hiring as for what are the decisions that are going to be right for our business? What is the energy that's going to be right for our business? The people that's going to be right for our business? The reason I asked this question is after I hired Lewis, I then had a series of different like VAs in the States who would just basically glorified admin assistants that weren't the right fit for my business. And I think because VA was on the uprise and I was witnessing all these coaches hire VAs, I was like, I need a VA too. Like, I'm going to have a VA too. Lewis can carry on doing the thing that he's good at, and then we'll have a VA do the admin stuff. But it wasn't the VA I needed because it wasn't someone who could really take charge of, well, I'm going to create the spreadsheet and I'm going to do the thing. And I hated that feeling of constantly being like, can you do this for me? Or what about if you do this? And it was like that delegation of like constantly having to remind somebody of what you wanted. And I kind of wanted a leader in my business that could be more of an operational manager. But I made a lot of mistakes before I got to that point. So where do we define like what the right person is, the qualifications? How do we want someone to present themselves within our business? I guess the question is.
Yeah, and it's the first thing. So people want to jump to, okay, I want to put the ad out and I want to get people. And I am normally saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's get clarity And I talk about the things exactly like you have, right? What are the things that you love to do in your business? What are the things that you hate to do in your business? What are the things that you feel are really like sucking your time? And what are the money making activities? Because the reality is, as a business owner, if you are stuck, like let's say for, bookkeeping, if you are stuck doing your bookkeeping, it's a very important job. It needs to be done, but you could be out having conversations, doing videos, like all of this other stuff, revenue generating stuff. So I like to get really clear on what are the tasks, but also what type of person do you want for your business? Do you need someone who is really creative? Do you need someone who is really like Lewis, right? Very logical. Let's plan it out, right? That real, a real analytical person. Because once you get clear on that, because one of the biggest mistakes business owners make when they start hiring is they try to hire themselves. And you don't need another you. You actually need someone to complement you.
That is,
Yeah.
I think that is like a breakthrough moment because I think a lot of people say, how do I clone myself? Imagine if I could have 10 of me doing my business. But ideally, even in my business, my clients wouldn't want somebody else mentoring them or somebody else leading the workshops because they want me. But what they would benefit from is somebody, supporting them maybe with the integration of how they're working with me, or we've just made another hire to bring in a funnel expert so that they can be doing more of the let's get the things ready for the clients. You create the content, Rose. You get the things together, Lewis, and I'm gonna make sure that we've got the landing page ready and the different things ready because we noticed that there could be a more efficient process in that, but also that it would be complementary to, well, everybody's doing the thing that they really, really enjoy and lights them up. And now we have somebody else taking care of a part of our business that's going to create more money in the long run because we're going to be able to take on more clients and it's going to feel better.
Yes. And this is the thing. As soon as we start talking about, we're not trying to get another you, we're trying to complement. And this is the thing. I think when we start a business, we think we need to be an expert in everything. And then when we start to want to expand, we're like, well, I'm the best at everything. Well, the reality is, I know I've got team members that video editing, like, I can do it. I'm just not great at it. Design of stuff like that, really, getting into Canva and doing stuff. Oh, I've absolutely done it, but not anywhere near the level that my team do it.
Yeah.
And I love to be around people who are great at what they do because you're absolutely right. What ends up happening is they complement everything you do and they elevate not only the ability to generate revenue, which we all want, but the whole brand, right? It takes it to a whole new level. So it sometimes is hard for business owners when I first start saying, no, 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 we're not looking for another you. We're looking for someone who actually loves that stuff that you absolutely despise or the stuff that takes you a really long time to do, right? There is absolutely someone out there. And I think of when I used to spend hours in Canva trying to do one image for social media. My team now pumps out so many images so fast. And I think it would still take me hours, right? And this is where we start getting real great value for our business because we can start with the right people. We can actually reach more of the people who need our specialty, who need our help. But trying to do it all, you'd only be able to reach a tiny little group of people.
And I think there's a control thing. Like, I definitely had a control thing early in my business where it was like, no, I know how to do that, and you're not going to do that. And especially then, obviously, once we'd had a series of VAs, we sat down with our accountant and they came to the surface and said, look, I think it's going to be more cost effective for you to do more of a salary based hire. And at the time, my mom wanted to transition out of the NHS. And so I was like, great idea. Absolute terrible idea. Mom, I love you, but it was a terrible idea. It was a terrible decision. And we can reflect on that now. And so, one, our personalities majorly clash. So we could not work together in that capacity. But two, it was a decision where I liked the way I was doing it And there were things that she brought to the surface that were very, very helpful. And there were things where I was like, absolutely not. Like, have you seen my creativity? No, we are not doing that. And so there was just this clash of like personality and the way we were going to do things. But some of it, and dare I say it, like some of it was me wanting to hold on too tight to my way of doing things. And the great thing that came from my mom working in my business was the spreadsheets and the like, here's the sales ledger and here's how we're going to chase up, these people and that people. And so there was a really strong energy of organization that came from that hire, that then when we hired another team member, we kind of applied that too, and we took the way that she told us into that. But I had to learn to let go of control, which was really hard, really difficult, and especially doing that with your mom, even more difficult, right?
Yes. And here's the thing, right? Um, I hear a lot of business owners saying, "Oh, and you said it earlier, right? I made so many mistakes in hiring." I don't actually see it that way, right? Because we learn every time. We go, "Oh, actually, I thought this is what I wanted. Actually, I'm getting more clarity." So, one of the biggest, diamonds we can find when we're in this hiring process is clarity about not only who we want, what skills do they need to have, and what works in our business. So everyone I work with, I have real big conversations about what's happening in their business, because I don't just go in and say this is the person you need, right? We have a big conversation to get a feel for what works in their business as well, because some businesses are much more nuanced and they need different types of people with different types of skills. But the learning is so good, and there's always, like you said, there's always value in people that come into our business.
Do you think that in today's day and age where there's like certain buzzwords on the internet, do you think people are being too quick to hire, let's say, virtual assistants, where maybe somebody with a different skill set would be better for their business in that season? Can we touch on that slightly?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I utilize virtual assistants, and I have had many over the years in my business. And one of the things is, and look, when I did interviews, face-to-face interviews in corporate, we can't rely on someone's resume, right? Because everybody lies in their resume. Come on. So that's
Like
the
a big up
same.
version of yourself, isn't it? It's like
Yes,
the big ballsy
absolutely.
energy.
So there's going to be lots of buzzwords in their resume, anyone's resume. What we actually, and this is where the clarity of what type of person, what task do they do, this is where this is really important. And I even go as far with virtual assistants, because sometimes when you're hiring where all you're doing is talking to someone on a screen, it can be really challenging to gauge if they're right. And I know the last time I did a reshuffle in my team, I had a really specific thing that I needed done like multiple times. So I actually had two people where I was really torn. So I actually gave them a task to do. It was paid, gave them a task to do, because I wanted to see the level of creativity. What did that look like, that end result? And was that end result aligned? Because I am not a believer in, oh, we're just going to make them do all this stuff for free. I paid both people, but it gave me this. There was absolute clarity of this person was absolutely right. This person, wasn't right for this creative side in my business. And if we're talking about brand, right, the person, especially in a lot of VA roles, there's a feel, there's a vibe that needs to happen. And what I also got to see, which, we get to test in this type of environment when we get someone to do this task for us, is did they have any initiative? Did they have any suggestions? What were they thinking about? Did they want a role where, and this is, something you need to consider as a business owner, because depends on where you are. Did they want a role where they just logged in, they did their time, or did they want to be part of my business and grow with me?
Ooh. Another big thing that I think I had to learn along the way, because I think again, I've hired people that wanted a job, but didn't want to grow with a business. And the two are very, very different. Because I'm somebody who wants to grow and expand, I have a certain mindset. Like it doesn't feel like a chore for me to show up for my business because I love my business. This is my creativity. Like I was up in the office at 8:15 this morning. Lewis was doing school run and I was like, let's fucking go, channeling the readings, moving the energy because that's what lights me up. And I want somebody to, yes, be paid for their time, but I want them to come in with that enthusiasm of here's what we can do. And that can sometimes be really, really hard to find because I feel like you need somebody with an entrepreneur mindset that maybe doesn't want to be an entrepreneur, but has the vision process, has the energy of an entrepreneur, has the desire to build something, and wants to be with you for the long haul, which I'm very content that I now have. But that was a huge learning process for me. And that was something that I had to navigate and get very specific of what is the key energy that I'm now craving inside of my business. And actually, Hannah, that now helps us with like the admin and the building and the behind the scenes and all of the stuff, she actually has her own business, which I think helps because she understands like the energy and the threshold that we're craving because she has things going on for herself. And so she's kind of had her foot in the toe of the energy that we now want to cultivate in the back end of our business. And it just works. Like it works like a dream because of that communication and the energy threshold. Now, looking at everything we've discussed, I think something that I've majorly learned from you, and I can't remember if we were discussing it on a one-to-one call or it was a YouTube, but something you said in regard to like key questions that we're going to ask the person that we're hiring. Is there anything that we should be, and I don't want you to give away too much because I know you've got a workshop coming up that I actually am going to sign up for. What are those key words that or key things that you think we need to be asking people before we're hiring them to get to the understanding of not just their qualifications, but maybe their personality? Yes, you've mentioned giving them a task, but is there ways we can maybe get to know them at the root a little bit deeper?
Yeah, and I think it really comes back to, and yes, I am going to talk more about this in my workshop, but I think the really key concept is past behavior predicts future behavior. So instead of asking things about what would you do, asking about what they have done and getting them to give you examples, you can start to see really internally how their mind works. And you can tailor that to your business about what is important for the role and also your business, right? Because if you think about it, if you are a IT business where, there's emergencies or cybersecurity, the questions that you need to ask are very different to, maybe a bricks and mortar quilting shop, right? They're very different. And this is where, again, the clarity of not just what's the title I need, because I really find this interesting with VAs. Oh, a VA. A VA only does this. Well, I look at it and go, well, what do I need? Like, I need, if I need something different. So, this, and it's receptionist, is all of these things going, well, what do I actually need in my business? And then being able to tailor your questions to that. Because there's no point asking someone, if you want a VA, asking them about bookkeeping if that's not what you need them to do. So again, you can see how that clarity in the beginning of what do I need and, what skills do they need? And then asking about, past behavior can really be beneficial because it's a predictor for future behavior.
And I think that changes all the time, right? Because even this year, we've recently just changed our accountant because we loved our accountant and there was nothing wrong with our working dynamic or anything like that. But the one thing that we wanted in this season is somebody who can show us how to invest in other businesses, how to kind of grow our net worth that is not just through Rosie Victoria and the Misfits. And she was limited in that advice that she could give. Whereas the new accountant, they have this financial planning team. They have people that are going to sit with you at the end of quarter and say, here's how we're going to leverage. And that is what I really need right now is that like financial CFO inside of my business. And so there's probably going to be people sat here that might have VAs, but I guess it's about recognizing when certain relationships might have expired and you're maybe craving, let's say you have a VA, but you want to go all in on YouTube. Maybe actually a video editing person is going to be more cost effective for your business. Do you think we should be, ooh, this is a good question. So I guess, do we think we should be thinking about hiring somebody who financially is adding income to our business or taking away stress? Like, where do you weigh up which is the most important? Because I guess I've had hires that add profit and hires that take away stress. Where do we decide which one first?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to, because it's a really, really good question, right? Because we first go to revenue, 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 right? So my first question for any business owner would be, how are you currently performing as the business owner, as the face of the business? Because if you are struggling, and I spoke to someone today who I could see that she was really like, she was just overworked, right? Having someone that just brings revenue in can potentially not solve the current problem. So
Mhm.
if we're feeling like we're not actually, and you think about how many creatives sit into this. I can't create because, I feel so stressed about all the stuff in my business. Well, then you need someone to alleviate that stress. And this is why I talked about the cleaner, right? Because that small little thing that made a massive impact on my relationship and my business because it took away this stress, right?
I am
Once we're
all for the
sitting in a really
cleaner.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And, once we're sitting in a place where we're kind of in our vibe, that's when we really have capacity and space to go, okay, let's increase the revenue. We really, we take a lot on as business owners. So sometimes, and you know this, right? Because you talk about this a lot. Sometimes with hiring, people are quite shocked when I'm like, okay, you need to hire someone that actually makes your life easier because you need to be taken care of. Yeah. And the amount of type A business owners that I work with that, you know, cry because I talk about, okay, how can we look after you? They're like, I didn't hire you for this. I didn't hire you for any of this emotional business. But you're the most important part of your business. And sometimes we forget that, and this is why I talk about the support team, right? Because the team is meant to, yes, grow the business, but it's also meant to support you as the creator in the business as well.
Ooh. And just listening to that, I think that when it comes down to the emotional side of things and just really witnessing that we are the most important thing inside of our business, there's also seasons where we can grow rapidly and seasons where sometimes we just have to hold what it is that we have going on. And I actually did a video on YouTube on Sunday, I think it was released, in regard to this, because I can honestly say this back into the year, I was like, I'm going to hold the clients I have. I'm going to really nurture those clients. I'm going to provide to those clients. I'm going to really like just strengthen those relationships because yes, my mind wanted to go into growth, but I knew that in this season when I'm prioritizing my health and coming back into my center, I couldn't physically do that. And that is not a loss. And I think a lot of people sit there and they measure in the I need to be growing and I need to be growing. But can we just speak about the power of holding what you've created? And so there's a lot of people out there that are growing rapidly to six figures, 50K months, 100K months, 150K months. Like to hold that is a priority. And I think we have to sometimes stop thinking about how do I grow and how do I hold because that holding process looks like where can I maybe take away from the rapid growth and actually make this process easier so that when I do go back into the I'm ready to grow and scale, I have the right foundation, which is where this quarter we've been sat there and thinking we need somebody else that's like a website whiz and somebody who, knows how to create funnels very easily, very rapidly. How can we bring that in? Yes, Hannah's great at that. Yes, Lewis is great at that. But also to have somebody who's just a pro at that and it's like their skill set and their ultimate priority. Imagine what that's going to do for our business. Yes, that takes away from the instant, ooh, what have we got in the pot this month for ourselves? But also it adds to the value of our business. And I think something I learned along the way of business is and I'm lucky that I don't have to do this now, but in like 2020, when it was like, ooh, I'm growing and I have my VA, it was like, okay, my VA is a priority right now because I've just had a baby and I'm going on this journey. And so ultimately, if I have to sacrifice some income for me, then I'm going to do that because that's going to add to the long term of my business. Now, I'm not saying we have to sacrifice income, but there has been times where I've had to prioritize other people's income rather than my own.
Yes. And look, and look, my personal opinion is I see lots of, because to me, right, your support team absolutely can hold you, right? So I see lots of, and I'm all about, yes, you can have massive growth, right? But that's slow, steady growth that's consistent. I get really excited about that because that means you have the team and you have the system and you have the support and you have the foundation to hold it. Because I see a lot of coaches going, I've just had a 50K month, you know, and
And then
then
they're
next
back
month
to like
they're
500.
yes, yes. And I go, hold on, because here's the thing. And, I'm a little bit of I'm a creative, but I'm also a little bit of a systems nerd because I like to build systems that create simplicity, right? So it helps business owners pull back and not have to be in and manually do everything. The amount of manual stuff that business owners do still is just insane. So that time of holding, you can actually look and go, okay, what's working? What's working for? And I've just done this in my business. I'm like, okay, hold on. What's working for how we are, getting bookings? What's not? And we've changed our system. What's working for how we actually get our social media out? And we've been able to update because we've been able to take a breath to do that. So you need those holding and that almost pause, because you think about it, right? When we breathe, we don't breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, right? We have a pause between the in and the out breath every single time. And we need to do that in business as well to go, okay, what's working? What needs to be tweaked? And especially with our team, and, what does that look like? Oh, great. We've got a moment to breathe, right? Do we need someone else or, do we need to change what we already have?
Mm, I love that. So looking at this, how can we work with just choking there, guys. How can we work with you? What does it look like to work with you? Specifically the hiring workshop, because even I'm sat here and I'm like, ooh, I want to grow my team next year, and this is going to be a strategical decision for me.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the hiring secrets workshop because I think it has been this almost, corporate secret about how to hire great people. So I'm really excited about this workshop. Now it's happening in January and it's an hour workshop that we're going to record where I am going to pour out all of these amazing secrets that I have learned over the last, couple of decades, but years and years and years that I did recruitment. And then looking at that, how that looks in a business. I've done thousands of interviews to actually get the right person for your business. And, you know, I've got the link happening where people can book in. It's going to, as I said, it's going to be recorded so that you can get the best out of that next step for you when you're actually looking to hire. You can have the plan and get the great result.
Amazing. And what I'll do is I'll drop the link down below for anybody who wants to come and join me. And I'll be sharing the link as well in the Misfit Business Lounge later today. But thank you so much for joining me today, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a really energizing conversation to have about business and hiring.